So welcome everyone to today's live stream, whether you're watching live or as a recording. I'd like to welcome you, and I hope that even later on when you're watching the recording, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment below, and I will respond accordingly. Either respond in reply in words, or I'll create a video to reply to you depending on how long the answer is. Okay, so New World Order, it's a big topic, right? It's a big topic because this is what is happening to us right now. This is happening in the world right now, and we hear so much about it. We hear, I mean, there are so many perspectives about what this New World Order is, right? So let me just maybe break it down into three broad segments for a start to get a better understanding of the different perspectives. Firstly, we have the geopolitical perspective, right? The New World Order from this perspective is about a vision for global governance, where nations cooperate, and rumors is that they want to create a one world government kind of thing. And whether that's workable or not, and whether, in my perspective, I do not think that our world leaders are evolved enough to be able to provide that kind of governance. But I'll go into that more as we go along. And then we have from the economic perspective, what is the New World Order? From the economic perspective, it is really implying a shift to global economic integration and interdependence. This can be both good and bad because it's very easy for, let's say, one country member does something that is not to the liking of the rest, which we see now in the world. And so then there will be sanctions, then there will be competition, and then the one that is perhaps not going maybe with the sanctions will then be ostracized as well. So it gets very political. Again, it all boils down to the consciousness, how evolved the leaders actually are. And obviously, for the economic perspective, we have the World Economic Forum talking about this a lot and controlling the direction of where the world is going. And keep in mind that the World Economic Forum is not no one voted them in as our world leaders, firstly. And it's not even, our world leaders attend the World Economic Forum in Davos, in Switzerland it's voluntary, right? They have to pay a fee to go. It's like an open forum that everybody, wants to go. But it's becoming increasingly questionable, right? A lot of people are questioning, like, what's the purpose of this World Economic Forum? So, and then of course, from the third interpretation of the New World Order, we have the conspiracy theories, right? In conspiracy theories, the New World Order represents a secretive and powerful elite group or organization believing to be manipulating global events and asserting control over governments and societies. And these theories often include notions of a hidden agenda to establish a totalitarian world government. These are considered conspiracy theories. We might be leaning towards a reality theory. It seems to be going in that direction, right? As someone on the spiritual path, I feel that this term, right, New World Order, has been kind of misused. I don't know which came first, right? I don't know whether it was the the term New World Order. I'm not sure whether it is the term that first appeared in the spiritual arena, or did the term New World Order appear on the geopolitical economic perspective because they adopted this term New World Order from the spiritual perspective. Right, we're not clear, right? Like who came up with it first, okay? And so, but I like to express the differences, right, in the perspective of what the New World Order is, right? The New World Order, I'm sure those of you who are into esoteric spirituality or esoteric psychology, you will have read books by Alice Bailey. And at this moment, right, a lot of very strong Christian groups, there's a huge misunderstanding, firstly. The strong Christian groups have this idea that Alice Bailey or esoteric spirituality is working for the dark side, because in Alice Bailey's books, she talks about the New World Order. And it's the same exact term that's being used by the World Economic Forum, which seems to be moving towards the direction of a totalitarian kind of society. And so there are a lot of strong Christian groups who have caught wind of this New World Order by the World Economic Forum, and they seem to have an impression that Alice Bailey and all the esoteric spirituality understanding of New World Order is the same thing. But I like to firstly share the differences, and then we can, come to our own conclusion as to what we think it is, okay? So if you have read books by Alice Bailey, there's a lot about New World Order. We have to be very clear on this, firstly, because within the conspiracy theory groups, there are so many groups who believe different things. And even within these groups, if they don't do their research properly, they can easily just jump into conclusion and start to label esoteric spirituality or esoteric psychology as evil, as working for the World Economic Forum, but they're not the same thing. Okay, so let me just share the difference. Okay, first and foremost, I think that's important. So there's Alice Bailey's, if you have read her blue books, right, she talks about the New World Order. And then there is also the World Economic New World Order. I'll share side by side what the differences are. So the definition, right, by Alice Bailey is that the New World Order is a spiritual and esoteric vision for global transformation. That's, if you know about the history of Alice Bailey, where there was she channeled information from these ascended masters, these people or enlightened beings are called ascended masters. So they came up with this New World Order, and they call it their vision, really, and the definition is a spiritual and esoteric vision for global transformation. But from the World Economic Forum's perspective of what New World Order is, it is a framework for global governance and collaboration on social economic issues. Okay, so the core philosophy, according to Alice Bailey, is to emphasize spiritual evolution and consciousness expansion. But from World Economic Forum perspective, or shall we just call it WEF, they focus on economic development, sustainability, and social progress. This is economic development and sustainability and social progress in their perspective, in their eyes. Whether that is really sustainability and social progress is a big question mark, okay? Now, the key players in New World Order, according to Alice Bailey, will be spiritual leaders, esoteric groups, and consciousness seekers. According to WEF, the key players are global leaders, influential organizations, and policymakers. So we see a vast difference here, first and foremost. Unfortunately, as much as Alice Bailey would like to have this, key players being spiritual leaders, we do have a lot of our spiritual leaders who have fallen into the trapping of WEF. That's my perspective. I see them going along with what the WEF proposes, and there is no spiritual input. In fact, the WEF talks about transforming spirituality or removing the concept of God entirely. So for this area, right, there's a lot of question mark. So I would question our spiritual leaders. They've bought everything. They seem to be at the mercy of the WEF, right? I don't know. I mean, all the policies that they make, I feel that the spiritual element of all of these policies have gone missing, as seen through the pandemic, right? Where there is a lot of segregation of people, where there are a lot of, you're unvaccinated, you're not allowed to go to places, you're not even allowed to go to church, for God's sake. Right? So where is the spiritual understanding? Where is the compassion? Where is the love? Where is all of that? So, for many of our religious leaders, there's a lot of question mark, right? Whether are they up to the level of consciousness where they're able to really practice what they preach. Unfortunately, many are not practicing what they preach. Where is the love and where is the compassion, right? When it came to the pandemic and segregating people and how they do it is entirely not based on science even. Okay, so policymakers, right, from WEF have such a strong influence currently over our spiritual leaders, our religious leaders, our mainstream religions, right? So powerful. And these are organizations, of course, these organizations are huge, and they influence so much. There's so much of, there's a lot of money as well involved in these kind of groups. So then what's left would be spiritual leaders who are of, much smaller groups, and maybe not even a group at all. I mean, you could be a spiritual teacher. I mean, like myself, right? I don't believe in having like followers in that sense, right? I'm a spiritual teacher. I teach what I teach. My aim is to empower. My aim is not to, make people dependent on me. So the way I operate, maybe in the grand scheme of things, I will not be known as a spiritual leader, but a spiritual teacher. So in Alice Bailey's understanding of New World Order, or in what she wants to propagate, right, is really for spiritual leaders, esoteric groups, and consciousness seekers to be the key players, to drive this New World Order. And because of this, conspiracy theories not understanding the idea of spiritual concept of New World Order. And I feel, right, I have this sneaky suspicion that the World Economic Forum and all of these geopolitical groups and economic groups, right, have kind of hijacked the term New World Order from Alice Bailey. Or it could be the other way around. I don't know. I mean, the way I see it, it seems to be that way, right? And so I avoid using the term New World Order because it's so weighted now, and there's so much shadow energies attached to New World Order. So I rather call it something else, right? I don't know, like transformation of consciousness, upliftment of humanity. That would be, the terms that I would use rather than New World Order, because there's so much baggage, with that now. So in governance structure, right, from Alice Bailey's perspective, governance structure is emphasizing spiritual unity and alignment with higher principles. And that's what all of us spiritual people want to align with, right? We want to emphasize spiritual unity. We want to have alignment with higher principles, with, our soul-driven values. And unfortunately, if we look at many of the spiritual leaders out there, they're not exactly aligning with the higher principles of what they're actually preaching. There is so much of their shadow energies involved. And that's why, before this live stream, I did part 1 and part 2 of the dark side of the spiritual path. I wanted to talk about this subject because I feel that many spiritual leaders have failed us. And my role in this is to enable people to wake up and to understand that maybe the spiritual leader that you're following is not steering you in the direction that you think that they are, and that you should question them. And if they are not happy with you questioning them, then that's a red flag. Any spiritual leader should be glad to have an open conversation and a dialogue with you, especially if we're talking about spiritual growth, right? Consciousness work is all about, critical thinking and evolution of our consciousness. And so, I really wanted to wake people up from that and not to be stuck in the spiritual beliefs. I mean, whichever religion and groups or organization or teacher that you follow, right? There is nothing wrong in having an open dialogue and questioning. And if you're being clamped up, you're asked to shut up, or you're treated like an outcast, or, like what social media is doing now. They limit you, they restrict you, they ban you, right? They have these fact checkers. Then, it's questionable. I would say, you really need to look elsewhere if you are not given the chance to have open dialogues. Okay. So according to WEF, the governance structure would be, they are advocating for multilateralism, international cooperation, and governance. I mean, this sounds like big words. What they're essentially saying is that they just want closer cooperation. I feel that when they use these words for multilateralism, international cooperation, and governance, it sounds like we are heading towards totalitarianism. All right. Oh my God, tongue twisting words. So their idea of a one government is like we have all these, our country's leaders and governments reporting to one, like a shadow government. The shadow government is not voted in, right? We did not vote for the WEF to run how we want things to be run. We did not vote for even the WHO, World Health Organization. We did not vote for them to decide how we should be taking care of our bodies and our health. But they have such a strong influence, and whoever has the most money buys up votes, right? Whoever has the most money has the greatest influence. And I guess if you do enough research, you know who I'm talking about. You know how all of our health policies are geared towards a certain direction because of certain funding that comes from certain places. Okay, so because we're on YouTube, I'm not going to speak directly of people's names, or I'm not going to say, but I think you know who I mean, right? If you do enough research, you will know what I'm talking about. So I don't want to get banned on this particular platform. So I'm going to go around, right? And not give you direct names, but you can find out very easily. So from the aspect of global integration, right, in Alice Bailey's perspective, it is about promoting spiritual oneness and interconnectedness, right? Fair enough. From WEF, it is about advocating economic integration, global trade, and collaboration. Okay. The goals from the perspective of Alice Bailey is spiritual awakening, human unity, and planetary harmony. That's what all of us want, right? We're spiritual practitioners. That's what we want. We want spiritual awakening. We want all our brothers and sisters to wake up. We want human unity. We don't want to, right now what we see is this great disharmony, this huge disparity on ideals and ideas, and and how the WEF have their own idea of what, human unity is, and creating all sorts of strange agenda that we see, especially in the month of June, right? So if you don't know what I'm talking about, Google, check it out, what is the agenda in this Pride Month, right? Pride Month. There's so much going on out there. So much of corruption where our children are being pushed towards a certain agenda, and that should not be happening, right? Children should have childhood. Okay, so so the goals from WEF is sustainable development, equality, and addressing global challenges. So the idea of equality, I don't know, it's just it is becoming quite questionable. There was no equality during the pandemic, and we saw that very clearly. So they're saying one thing and doing something else. Even in religious organizations, they talk about equality, they talk about compassion, they talk about love, but we didn't see that during the pandemic. And even spiritual leaders and spiritual organizations were acting out of fear, right? Where is the love consciousness? Where is a higher consciousness? So all of these are questionable. So the criticisms that, the New World Order, as promoted by Alice Bailey, what sort of criticisms or concerns that, people may have with regards to that, is seen as a fringe belief system and lacking empirical evidence. The problem with wanting evidence, in spirituality is it just shows that there is lack of understanding of what spirituality is, or esoteric spirituality, because you really need to, spirituality is very experiential. You can't, and the experience of each person is so different, right? How we experience God and how we experience our meditations and how we make our connection with the divine and the universe is going to differ from someone else, even if we belong to the same religious organization or we believe the same thing. Our experiences will vary. So how do you then collect empirical evidence for the existence of this belief? At the end of the day, it's about, people with different beliefs coming together and accepting that, this was your experience, I accept that experience, and I understand where you're coming from, but I have no judgment for your experience. And that's your journey, right? I allow you to journey the way that you should be journeying, because it should be an empowering, it's very self-empowering, right? To honor someone's journey without trying to impose and telling them that they are wrong, as many religions are doing right now, by telling them they're on the wrong path and they're not building the right God, right? And all of that. And of course, from criticisms and concerns towards the WEF is they've been accused of promoting elitism, corporate influence, and global control. They are real concerns, right? I would say that from what we observe so far, these are real concerns, because we see through the pandemic that even when they talk about economic sustainability and cooperation, the number of businesses, right, would be that died during the pandemic. These would be, shall we say, it's not the elite, it's not people in poverty, it's the middle class, right? The whole chunk of middle class people who run their businesses. Many of the businesses died. So I read a stat somewhere that more businesses died, especially these small businesses, or middle class owner who own these businesses. More of these businesses died than people during the pandemic. It's it's bizarre, right? I mean, if you think about it, if they shut down everything, right, in the course of shutting down and locked down everything, more businesses died than people because of the pandemic. And so it does feel like there is a promotion of, the elite, because what happens with the elite is that they own the big corporations, they own the chains, because they own these chains, right, and franchises across the world, from like McDonald's, Burger King, Apple Store, a Microsoft, or whatever big brands that you hear, right? At the end of the day, if you trace back, I'm sure you know this by now, if you trace back who is the actual owner, it comes back to just one big corporation. So this one big corporation owns the whole world. And you have to check out also who are the board of directors in this one big corporation. Okay. So there is global control, right? At the end of the day, who wins? Like, even if you look at Amazon, right? He made so much money during the pandemic because of the lockdowns. Who stands to gain with lockdowns? The big corporations, because they do the delivery, they have the manpower, they have the assets to run that businesses still. And the guy who owns the coffee shop down the street has to shut down because no one came, right? People were not allowed to, dine in. They can do takeaways maybe, but still, it affected that. And so the stat was pretty mind-boggling, the number of businesses that died versus the number of people who died during the pandemic. So if you ask me whether that is a criticism, I would say I wouldn't call it entirely a criticism. It's a big concern. When there is a global control over everything that we do, every move that we make, it is a big concern, right? And using fear as a way to control people, even religions have bought into it. Religious leaders have bought into it. And fear of dying is a real thing. So when people all they think about is that they're afraid to die, and they don't do enough research, knowing that the survival rate, if you get COVID, is 99.9%. And even if you are ill, it's still above 90%. If you have a particular, illness, right, and ongoing, if you take proper care of yourself, your survival rate is very high, right? But they're just drumming these fear motivation into people, and people just become so controlled, and they become so zombified that they do what they're told without thinking, with no critical thinking skills, unfortunately. And if you yourself have fallen into that trap, and you have realized that, oh, I fell into that trap, right? It's okay, right? You move out of it and know not to do the same thing again, not to fall into the same trap again, because the same act, fear-based movement or fear-based manipulation, is going to come again. They've already announced that a new pandemic is coming. They've already rehearsed for it. So there's going to be new things that, that's going to come into play for tightening of control. Just, keep that in mind. In terms of influence on policies, from the perspective of Alice Bailey on what New World Order is, it's about focusing on inner transformation as a catalyst for change. And I'm all for this. I completely, I'm into inner transformation. When you can change within, right? You do the change within, and you shine with your light and love, and that's where you can be a real catalyst for change. You can't change the world if you don't change yourself. There is no inner transformation. There is no way, right? You can be a catalyst for change. From the WEF's perspective, influence on policies will be to drive policy discussions generate recommendations and initiatives. What really goes on, right, in their meetings? They don't really talk about it. But there are snippets of the videos going around. If you go on Telegram, you see a lot of it. The other thing also is there have been people who attended these meetings who were blown away by how corrupted the process is, and they wrote a book about it. I forget the name of the book now, but if you want the name of the book, drop me a message and I'll find it. I got the book myself, but I forget the name. So these people who attended, they were like, gosh, what are these people thinking? Where are they coming from? They're out of touch with the man in the street. What kind of policies are they coming up with that is, they want to drive the economy in a certain way that only benefits them. It doesn't benefit the majority of the people, because majority of the people are, you and I, right? I mean, we're not the elite. We earn a decent living, and we do what we can, right, to help each other. But it just gets really weird, right? If you read more about it, you will see that. Okay, impact on society from Alice Bailey's perspective is to promote personal and collective spiritual development. Yes, fine. From the WEF perspective, to shape economic system, addressing societal issues, and to foster progress. In terms of public awareness, Alice Bailey's New World Order is relatively niche and lesser known concept. It's so niche that most people don't know about it, that when they hear about the New World Order as promoted or propagated by the WEF, they think it's one and the same. They think that Alice Bailey is promoting the World Economic Forum, right? It's not, okay? So I just want to make that clear definition about this. So in terms of public awareness for WEF, is they are gaining visibility through the annual meetings, publications, and initiatives. So more and more people now are becoming aware of what the World Economic Forum is all about. And there are, it is very questionable, right? What is their agenda at the end of the day? Because as the man in the street, we do not see that benefiting most people at the moment. And so, it's a wait and see situation. However, there are some, as some of you may know, not only am I a spiritual teacher, I'm also an intuitive. So in 2019, in August, September, I felt quite ill. And what happened during that time when I felt ill is I had vertigo. I was spinning. And I received messages also that something huge is going to happen in 2020. And that there's going to be experiments made on people. And at the time when I received the message, I thought like, oh my God, what is this? Is this my imagination that I got this message? Like, what is going on? Am I hallucinating? But I got this message, right, that said that there'll be, because people are asleep. And when people are asleep, there's gonna be experiments, done on people. And so I did not, I did not think much of it. I was spinning out of control with vertigo. And when it was only later on in 2021 late 2020, that I realized during the time when I was spinning out of control with vertigo and getting the message, right, about the experiments and all that, then I realized that message was talking about, the vaccination program that was being rolled out in 2021. And I knew immediately that was not something that I wanted in my body, right? But, from my position, me telling people that I got this message made me sound like a completely mad woman. my ex-husband, very pro-jab. I didn't want my daughter to be vaccinated, but then he took me to court. And when I told him, I mean, we were married, right? So he would know that I'm psychic and intuitive. But when I told him that, I got this message in 2019 that it is this big experiment, he laughed at me, right? And my ex-husband is a spiritual person, supposed to be a spiritual person. He's a meditation teacher. He laughed at me. Took me to court anyway. So, so for me to come out and tell people that, I got this message, that it is an experiment, don't do it, was a very, very difficult one, was very, very trying, right? And so, but, I did what I had to do, and then, everything just, roll out, right? You see how the world just started shifting, right? We have the lockdowns, we have the vaccination drives, one after another. They ask you to take one, and then they ask you to take two, and then three, and then now they keep asking people to go for it. But we have seen the effects, right? The adverse reactions. We have even seen the Pfizer, by court order, had to release the documents, right? Like pages and pages and pages of the documents of the adverse reactions. Even though it's out there, the control from media is so powerful that, even you try to tell people, they don't want to read it. They don't want to believe it, right? So instead of me coming across like a mad woman telling people that I got this message, in 2019 that it is an experiment. So don't take it, I mean, no one's going to believe me, right? I mean, it just sounds too crazy because the whole world is going one direction and this mad woman is going the other direction. It's very difficult for people, right? And so, I have some friends who tell me things like, people who are not vaccinated, they tell me things like, well, then you know who your true friends are. But you know what? I would not want to say it that way. I feel like it is truly very difficult for people to make that decision. First and foremost, the fear of dying is very powerful, right? For many people, the fear of dying is really powerful. It drives people to do things that would, it blinds people from doing the right thing. And when people are in a hurry, they're so afraid that they're in a hurry. They're not patiently breathing. In our spiritual practices, we learn, right? When we are panicking, when we're in a hurry, we know that we're going against the universe. This principle. Now, if this is new to you, then I want you to remember this as a spiritual principle. Whenever you are in a hurry, whenever you're panicking, whenever you make a decision out of fear, you're moving against the universe. Because the universe that we are born in, right, is a universe of love. But the people operating from it may not necessarily be in alignment with love, right? I mean, it comes from, with the fear-driven stuff and all of that fear agenda, right? So they operate in their own matrix of fear. But when you align more with the universe, you are going to get the support from the universe. So which kind of support do I want in my life? I want the support from the universe rather from a fear-based matrix, right? So the idea is, whenever you're panicking, whenever you fear something and you make a decision out of fear, I'd like you to say, hang on a minute. Wait a minute. Let me just take a deep breath. Let me just pause. I'm in no hurry. I'm in no danger. Let me just use my critical thinking skills, remaining calm, making sure my emotional body is is calm, and spend time in nature, right? Connect with the air, connect with the trees, and they're going to nourish you. They're going to make you feel calm. I mean, you look at nature, right? Look at the trees, look at the flowers. They're in no hurry. They move in such mini movements, right? Slow motion. They don't grow like, quick. So just observe them and how still they are. Learn from them, right? So be in that stillness and feel the support from the universe, and you'll get your answer. The answer becomes so clear on what you need to do rather than moving with the majority of fear-based movements. I'm telling you this right now because there's going to be more fear-based kind of global movement happening in the next few years, more than one, right? Because remember this, whenever something or someone knows in an unconscious way that they're losing power, they will up, right? They will up their movements towards trying to regain power, and it's going to come in really much more powerfully and stronger in how they would go about brainwashing, propagating whatever agendas they have. Turn off your telly. Avoid mainstream news. If you want news, go into alternative. Look for independent journalists. There are a lot of independent journalists right now, who see through, right, how our news outlets are bought by all these, WEF and their business associates, right? So, while these media, like even YouTube, right, while it is one of the major, right, players in live streaming and videos and all that. So we do want to use them for good, but at the same time, we just have to be very careful about what we're saying. Even though, I personally do not believe in censoring myself, but I have to weigh the consequences. What do I want more? A reach where, do I want to be in a platform where people can reach me much more easily? Or do I, you know what I mean? So I want to be on a platform where people can reach me more easily. I want to deliver a certain message. And so I have to do, a self-censorship, and hopefully people can then email me or message me and ask me more questions that I can direct them. But I have a Telegram channel. So if you want information where you don't get in, mainstream, is on Telegram. Okay. So, and, on Telegram, we can talk about whatever we want to talk about, right? We're not limited or restricted to a certain extent, because I hear now that they are clamping down also on Telegram. So, so New World Order, according to geopolitical organizations, is very, very different from the spiritual perspective, from Alice Bailey's perspective about, what New World Order is. And so from now on, I'm going to avoid, in the spiritual arena, I'm going to avoid using the term New World Order, because it is often misunderstood as one and the same thing as the World Economic Forum. So if we understand the idea that we are here for transformation, we're here for consciousness development, no matter what is happening in the world right now, no matter how much fear they're trying to promote, no matter how much they're trying to clamp us down, the whole idea is not to go with it, not to follow the mainstream. Because if you follow the mainstream, you know that it's a fear-based matrix. You know that you are just being sucked into a fear-based matrix. All right. And you have to believe that you have the resilience, the spiritual resilience, the spiritual strength to stand against the hate that may come towards you. When my ex-husband took me to court, it was publicized in our news outlets in Singapore. It was all over social media, and the level of hate. Luckily, our names were not revealed, but my daughter was still affected by it. Seeing how it became public information. the amount of hate I got, oh my God, they don't even know me, right? I mean, and the level of hate that, you know, is unbelievable how people can be so out of touch with who they are and forgetting the essence, forgetting that I'm actually a human, right? And yeah, the level of hate was, unbelievable. But it helped me to develop in the work that I do, right? I often get hate mails. I often get hate anyway. It's not new to me. So I've been getting as long as I can remember, right? Especially when I first started as a spiritual teacher, and what I teach, I move out of the mainstream and I talk about things that are really quite different sometimes from other spiritual teachers, because my emphasis is a lot on psychological clarity. And so, it helped me to develop a thick skin, right? It helped me to really have resilience and like, okay, whatever, whatever you say, right, it's not going to impact me. Of course, at the beginning, I was quite affected, but not anymore. So, right, the level of hate that comes from people can be quite unbelievable. Like you start to realize that people are really capable of a lot of hate. And hate makes people do things that are, the things that people say, even on Reddit, right? This particular topic about the court case between my ex-husband and myself, right, was even on Reddit. An amount of hate from the local people in Singapore is vulgar. It's horrendous, like how would people even, like, why would these things be even in their minds, and they would, spew it out, typing away, right, being very happy behind the keyboard. So this is the level of consciousness that we're dealing with. This is mainstream consciousness, right, where people, the capacity for hate, because it's so great, because people essentially are really unhappy with themselves, due to, their own shadow energies, their own personal trauma, their own personal levels of whatever they're going through, right? And no one is looking. I mean, they're not looking at themselves. And because they are not working through their own psychology, it's so easy to project that hate onto someone else, someone they don't even know. And this is where we really need to move the tide, right? We have to not just talk about it, not just telling people that, you need help, not just telling people that. We really need to share information. We need to teach people about this. And that's why I created this channel, right? This particular YouTube channel, Musings from the Past, Present, and Future. The work that I do is like shadow work and, talking about inner child healing, inner parenting, emotional resilience, all of these, right? I teach in this channel. It's free information. I teach actual classes. I teach actual content. Why am I doing this? Because for me, deep down, right, it's so important that we move towards this vision of global transformation. And global transformation can only happen when each and every person, are working within themselves. They work for the inner transformation, right? No worries, they may not be real, maybe AI. But this was in 2021, so it was not AI as yet. It was still people. It was still people. And some of these people I know because we're Facebook friends, and because they didn't know that I was the one that the news was talking about. I could see their comments on the news, social media, right? I feel like, whoa. Yeah. So, it's quite, well. So anyway, my philosophy is really global transformation. And for global transformation to take place, we have to do the inner transformation. So I'm really, really for inner transformation, right? And I want each and every person, my desire is for each and every person to see through themselves, see through themselves and to see that, whatever that they have been holding back within themselves, whatever they have not worked on within themselves, it's time to work on it, right? Because the energies on the planet also, very, very interestingly, while the World Economic Forum has the agenda and they're coming out with all these things, and largely also quite supported by the planetary movements. Now, we have not seen these kind of planetary movements, for maybe, more than 100 over years. The planetary movements that we see right now is, especially right now, when we have Jupiter shining so brightly over us. Jupiter is, one of the largest planets, and this planet represents spiritual transformation and philosophy, right? And it's a big ruling energy right now, and it's kind of forcing people in that direction. Now, if you don't want to look at your own shadow energies, your own stuff, the planetary energies are going to force you to do it. And if you're not ready to do it, you will go mad, right? And this is another message I got in 2019, which I shared with my students because we did a live class on Zoom, and I shared with them that the years to come, I think I shared this in 2018 with my students, and I said the next few years, we are going to see the number of people who are going to go insane. They're going to go mad. They're going to go off emotionally, mentally. We're going to see that in increasing numbers. And as we go closer and closer to 2027, we're going to see that the number is going to go higher and higher. And I read a stat somewhere that right now, 50% of the world's population are mentally unwell. 50%. I don't know how they got that figure. But from the way I see how people are functioning, right, whether social media or people that I know, even in social gathering, and I watch the people, I can almost guarantee that it is 50% that people are mentally unwell. Now, they're not going off, like sitting in the middle of the street and talking to themselves, that kind of mentally unwell. What I mean is they're mentally unwell is that they're dealing with their inner demons and they don't know how, even though help is available. But they will not go for help because they don't want to be seen as weak. And I often tell my clients this, do not worry about seeing a therapist or coming to me for therapy. It is not weakness. I said only healthy people seek therapy because you are healthy enough to see that you need help and you want to get better. Unhealthy people will think that they can do it themselves. And what happens is their stuff just keeps bouncing off in their heads, right? And their emotional, mental stuff keeps bouncing off in their heads and their mindset that they are not even, they don't even know, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. And they're lost in the spiral. They're out of control and they don't even know. And their worldview has collapsed. They're only seeing their world in this mini perspective of what's really going on. And then they develop neurosis, they become paranoid. And for, serious cases, then people start to have bipolar. And then you see all these hidden narcissistic tendencies or start coming up, right? It's just becoming really chaotic, right, in the world right now. I mean, the number of people that you see that have gone off mentally, emotionally is increasing. And so we need to, educate people and tell them, why is there a need to work on your inner transformation? Why is there a need to heal yourself? Firstly, it's good for you. Secondly, it empowers you. Thirdly, the planet Jupiter is here to stay for a while. And if, we're not with the program of how Jupiter is trying to promote us to grow spiritually and do, inner spiritual work. And if we're not going with the program, it's going to drive us nuts. Right. And so if you, on YouTube, check out any good astrologers. They talk about this a lot. They talk about how Jupiter has a strong influence, over us right now and what it promotes and so on and so forth. So go out there and do your part. Work for deeper transformation. I mean, the WEF talks about, economic, geopolitical stuff, right? And they want to talk about sustainability of the environment and so on and so forth. Fine, right? They want to do all that. But is that really going to work if people don't work on themselves, if they don't work on their own inner transformation? And if people don't do their own inner transformation, what is going to happen is the shadow government will force people to follow their rules because people are not doing the inner work. Then the shadow government will try to control the population, and with greater control means less freedom. It's already coming in, right? We have digital ID. I mean, that's happening in Singapore. We have digital ID. We have, non-cash payments. So I try to use cash as much as possible because I'm trying to break out of that system. I mean, the young people, right? Gen Z, millennials, maybe Gen Y, they want to, they say it's more convenient. Everything they want to do is they want to do electronically, right? They want to pay by this. Even dating is through an app now. They don't want to meet people face to face until they have, chatted with this person for 6 months or something. It's pretty unrealistic, right? But then, after 6 months, you realize that, this is not the person I want to be with or I want to date because, maybe the person has been catfishing you for a while and you have no idea you've been catfished, right? I mean, a lot of all these things happen. We hear stories, right? And so we need to get back to reality. So the other thing that I'm promoting really quite fervently is for people to really get in touch with the earth, right? Connect with the earth, go out there. Spend more time in nature, remove your shoes, ground your energies. The more you are grounded with the energies of nature, the more you're grounded with the earth, the more in touch you are with the heartbeat of Mother Earth. And when you are in alignment, your heartbeat is in alignment with Mother Earth. What is going to happen is you are going to feel so safe. You are going to feel like you are protected. And then whatever agenda, global agenda, the shadow government has, their new world order, whatever agenda they may have for you is not going to impact you. You are out of that matrix. You are part of it, and yet you're not. You are functioning within it, but you're not part of it. You don't buy into it, right? Because the things that you do, the decisions that you make is really more in alignment with the universal energies. Right? Remember what I said earlier? The more panicky you are, the more fear-based you are in making any decision or move, the more you're out of alignment with the universe. The universe will not support you. It cannot support you because your fear energies, even if it wants to support you, you're repelling the support. So move with the universe, remaining calm, breathe, be grounded. Listen to your body. Your body will tell you, your body will deliver your intuitive messages from the universe, right? The body doesn't lie. Your mind can lie. Your mind can lie. Your emotions sometimes can lie to you because how you feel may be determined by how you are thinking. So your mind can lie. Your body will not lie. Your nervous system never fails you, right? So if you are, and that's why people who lie feel it in their nervous system, they twitch or they do funny things, right? in their physical body. And then you kind of pick up on that, right? You pick up like, oh, okay, I think this person just told a lie because the nervous system shows up that way, right? And so your body is not going to lie. So listen to your body. Now, if you feel discomfort in the body, ask yourself, what is this? What is it, is it stopping me from doing something? Let me just sit with it. So the more you sit with it, the more it takes practice, right? To get to know yourself all over again. It takes practice to know what your physical body is trying to tell you. It takes practice to know what your nervous system is trying to tell you. So you do need to practice. So sit, spend time in nature, be more grounded. Okay. Now, when you do that, right, you will find that the whatever agenda, whatever fear-based program, whatever new pandemic that they're going to come up with, right, you don't fall in the trap. Make sure you take care of yourself. You eat well, you do the right thing by your body. The more you listen to your body, the more you know what you should be eating and not eating. Let me share some tips with you, right? I mean, sometimes socially, for social reasons, you have a meal with people, the meal is not entirely healthy. That's fine. You can have it, but make sure you fast after that, and make sure you do something about it after that, right? You know, fasting is one of the best ways, right, to get clear within our system. Or you take apple cider vinegar, right? The good quality apple cider vinegar. You know, take a lot of probiotics, prebiotics, take all these things, right? Drink a lot of water. And then you get back to your normal routine. So usually if I have like a social event that I go to and the meal is not 100% what I would normally eat, I would then fast the whole day after that, or fast the next day. If it's dinner, then the next day I'll fast. I drink a lot of water. I take a lot of pro and pre biotics, and it really helps, right? So the more you consume, the longer you fast. That's basically it. When you do unhealthy things for a period of time, then make sure you double the healthy things that you do after that. It's really a very simple philosophy. Nothing complicated. Just tell yourself, okay, I did this. Maybe I had a glass of wine the night before. What do I do? When I go home, I take apple cider vinegar. I take, supplements, enzymes to break down the alcohol. The next day I would fast. I won't eat so early. Maybe I'll have my first meal at 2 p.m. That sort of thing, right? You just allow the body to heal. So it doesn't mean that you cannot enjoy yourself with these things like, glass of wine, or you want to eat that cheesecake. It doesn't mean that, right? Fermented food, definitely, right? Fermented food. It doesn't mean that you cannot do all that. You can, but just make sure that, after that, you have to make up for it and you do the right thing by your body. Okay. So the New World Order, you can easily find information on what the World Economic Forum is trying to propagate. They want you to own less. They want you, with AI coming in, okay, I can almost guarantee, with AI coming in, many jobs are going to be obsolete. And what they are trying to promote is for people to have these kind of robotic jobs to operate the AI. And then you think less about what you really want in your life. You think less about your life purpose. You think less, they'll satisfy you with things that you enjoy, that promotes your laziness, that promotes your craving for things. So they're going to make these kind of things really easy to get. So certain types of alcohol, certain types of foods are going to be very cheap to obtain. They're going to make it so that you spend your money and time doing these things. Entertainment like Netflix and all that is going to be really cheap also for you to get. Porn. No one questioned why isn't porn banned, right? That's to keep you occupied so that you have no time to think about other things, to try to, because they really want, global control. When you are satisfied with these small things like porn, food, entertainment, gaming, right? You can spend as much time gaming as you want, right? Nobody cares. They want people to be in these things so that you will not think about wanting to be, especially the young people. You will not think about wanting to be in relationships. They want you to feel and think like you're alone, that you are lonely. Because when you spend so much time online, you're going to be a little bit weird, right? Because then you lack social skills. Lacking social skills means you're not going to interact with your fellow human beings. And when you don't interact with fellow human beings, you have difficulty finding a life partner. The agenda at the end of the day for New World Order is depopulation. And they're not shy about this. They did not shy away from saying this. The depopulation agenda is real. And they don't want people to conceive. So people start marrying their AI, start marrying their robots, and it's not being stopped, it's promoted. So, you know, your basic family values, right? The nucleus family is completely, you know, not there anymore. And so we have to do the opposite of what they are promoting, right? So they want people to be alone. They don't want people to get together. So because of that, in 2021, I created, you know, in Singapore, I created this business network where we're just there to connect with another human being, right? We have a meal together. We talk about things, you know. We talk about social things as well. We get together socially sometimes. So, you know, for me, that's my input, right, into the world, because I like people to meet face to face, okay? It's important, right? It's important to have that face to face thing. So the depopulation agenda is real. You know, trying to minimize everything that's happening right now, and from the perspective of World Economic Forum, they're trying to cut down a lot of things. They are, in time to come, they're going to prevent people from traveling, which means that is in the name of saving the planet, is in the name of global warming. And they say that you can't fly, right, from one place to the next. So what they want you to do is you travel through metaverse. You travel virtually. And that's why there's a huge promotion on all of these things, right? I would say go travel. Don't buy into this thing where you can travel just wearing that stupid goggles, right? It's not the same thing. They want to make virtual reality so real that you start to get confused. You know, like what is real, what is not anymore. All right. We're entering into that kind of era. We see it in the movies. And there was a movie with Bruce Willis. I'm not sure you've seen it. It's called I forget the title now. It'll come back to me in a short while. Or I'll Google for it. Let me just Google. Give me 2 seconds. Bruce Willis, because I feel like you all need to hear this. It's a really good movie, because this movie shows us exactly where can I find it? It shows us exactly, you know, where we'll be heading towards if we are not careful, where all we do is, you know, we get into a fake, the movie is called Surrogates, right? Surrogates. I'm going to spell it out here. Surrogates. Go watch it. What happens is, so it's in the chat now. What happens is in Surrogates is that people they lay down in this tank or this thing, right? And they're hooked up, and their virtual self goes out and interacts with the world. And then when he finally, you know, okay, I'm not going to tell you the whole thing. Go watch it. Go watch it. It's a good movie. It's, you know, made in 2009. But it's a good movie. So, you know, a lot of the movies that we're watching right now is showing us, it's almost like unconsciously it's preparing us for that kind of future. And unfortunately, what happens is when we watch too much of this, right, these kind of movies, right, it's preparing us for the future. It's also making us so accepting of what is to come, that we no longer think that it is abnormal, that we no longer think that this is not right. And we just accept. So there's another one by Apple right now. Let me just bring it up on my screen. It's called Silo. It's a new one, right? Silo as in Silo. This is on Apple. It's an original by Apple. Silo is also people who don't go outside anymore, and they all, they don't even know why they're there anymore. They live in the silo. There's 140 stories high silo, and there are no lifts, and you have to walk up and down. And very, very interesting as well. So all of these movies and TV programs, right, they are kind of promoting this kind of future and making us feel like it is acceptable. So we have to continue to be out there. We have to continue. Don't buy into the virtual reality. Okay, don't. Okay, and try to stop. Or I mean, you can't stop your kids from watching these things or doing these things, but don't promote it, or try not to, discourage them from going into it too much. In certain societies, especially fast-paced societies like Singapore, Tokyo, London, New York, all these cities, right, where it is heavily populated, lots and lots of people, you feel the lack of space, then there's a high chance that you want to be in your own cocoon, in your tiny, tiny place. You live in a tiny place, and that's fine. But what's going to happen is you are just going to spend so much time indulging on these entertainments that you don't do the real thing that human beings do. And people are, there's also now the threat where they're going to install chips into your arm, right? So they tell you things like, oh, instead of carrying a phone, because you're going to lose your phone, have the chip. And with that chip, you can do a payment, you can have your VEX status, you can whatever, right? It's all in the chip. People are already doing it in Sweden, and I see the young people doing it first. You don't know what this chip is going to do to your health. Honestly, right? So all that is coming, right? That's what they want. Because that will be greater control. When you have a chip implanted on someone, the chip can do many things, right? And when they centralize control, so when payments, when your ID, this is what China is the prototype. Look here, a lot of people in the West, a lot of conspiracy theories also thinks that it is a battle between China and the West. No, the reality is China has been in on it with the same agenda, with this New World Order agenda for the longest time. They were the prototype. And if they can succeed with billions of people, the West now sees that it can succeed. They're going to do the same thing with the rest of the world, where you just use one app and it controls your identity, it controls your social credit scores, it controls your money. You have cash in China, you cannot spend. They only accept virtual money, right? They only accept payment by the app. And you need a bank account and so on and so forth. So China has proven to be successful, and this is going to be implemented in the rest of the world. So that's the New World Order, according to these geopolitical organizations. There are many of them, right? The World Economic Forum is just one of them. There are several, but they're all working together. They're all in cahoots, in their best of intentions, right? They think that they're doing the right thing, but the advisor for World Economic Forum, right, talks about religion a lot. He talks about the death of religion, the death of God. He talks about new religion, the Bible rewritten by AI, and all of these, right? And it's getting out of control. And so at the end of the day, everyone, we really need to focus on our own inner transformation. so that we are prepared for all of these changes coming up, and how you can transform yourself and transform the world, transform your families, do the right thing, and not cave into fear. Okay? So thank you for being here and listening in. If you, I feel like I've covered just maybe 1/4 of what I actually want to say. And you feel that you would like to see part 2, if there's enough response from you, you want to see part 2 of this particular topic, I will do another live stream on it, part 2, where I will cover more. If not, I'll move on to the next topic, more for personal transformation and growth. Okay. So I really appreciate your presence, those of you who are here live. If you're watching this as a recording, I will be editing some parts, and I'll be posting this, the recording out for you. And I wish you the best, and I'll see you again in my next live stream. God bless you, and